here's Ed Bernstein.
Well, everybody seems to be talking about marijuana, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana. Well, here today, my guest is an expert on marijuana, Tommy Chong. Now, when I think about your background, Tommy, actor, musician, comedian, entrepreneur, which title do you like the most?
Lately, it's been great granddaddy. My grandson and his wife had a baby, and so I'm a great granddaddy.
But how many grandchildren do you have?
I got three that I know of.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of it. I mean,
Sure.
you started out first, musician first. Is that what you're originally?
Yeah, basically
were?
Musician. Yeah.
Played guitar.
Been playing guitar since I was 10 years old.
Right.
And like for dancing and so on. Mm-hmm. And yeah, music has always been my love. I still do it. But then I evolved into actor, comedian with Cheech.
What came first, the comedian or the acting part?
Oh no, the comedy.
The comedy, right? Yeah. And then acting, and now you're an entrepreneur. You have a Chong's Choice.
Yes.
And what exactly is that?
Chong's Choice is basically a testing operation where we test different grows, and we only hook up with the best, and then we offer it to the buying public. Mm-hmm. And it's been tested, and we guarantee its quality, and we guarantee everything about it. That it does what it's supposed to do.
Now, 50 years ago, when you started smoking marijuana, and there was no testing, right? The science was infantile in those days, right? I mean, you smoked, it came with seeds and twigs and things like that. Now there's a tremendous science to marijuana.
Yes, it is.
Right. So when you're using it today, mm-hmm. How much different is it for you than it was 40, 50 years ago?
Well, yeah, I've heard that. The pot today is a lot stronger. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you, I got just as ripped when I was a kid. Okay. 17 years old. Mm-hmm. As I do now.
Right.
In fact, more. I got higher actually back then than I do now because I built up such a tolerance.
Right. You build up tolerance, but it's not addictive.
No, not addictive at all. I've tried.
Right. You've tried to get.
I've tried to get hooked, but I keep forgetting to get high. Right.
I want to ask you because you went to prison,
yes.
Federal prison,
yes.
For selling bongs, and for our viewers that may not know what a bong is.
It's a water pipe.
It's a water pipe, right? It's a glass pipe that.
But back then, in 2003, when I got popped, it was considered paraphernalia.
Right.
And there's a drug law called paraphernalia, anything to do with the drugs. For instance, it's illegal to have a cigarette paper with a wire in it because it could be used for smoking marijuana.
Right.
No, and people went to jail for that, or at least went house arrest.
Yeah.
And so the paraphernalia law now has sort of evaporated mm-hmm. because of the actually discovering how much good marijuana does for people. Like in the medical community.
Right. And let's talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to ask you, follow up on the prison thing, because there was a report in the New York Times recently that more than 50% of people that are arrested for marijuana-related crimes.
Yes.
And when you add up all the other violent crime arrests, it doesn't equal the amount of people that are arrested for marijuana-related crimes.
Not even close.
Right. So what typically happens, and you correct me, I mean, you have firsthand experience mm-hmm. in this, you get arrested, mm-hmm. and then once you're arrested and you have a record, mm-hmm. now you're an entertainer. Mm-hmm. So for you to come out of prison, I mean, you created some job opportunities. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do not have those opportunities. No. They lose the right to vote. They lose the opportunity to get jobs.
In some states, right. Yeah. Well, it was... Marijuana, the marijuana laws, right from the beginning, was a racist law, right from the very beginning. In fact, that's why it's called marijuana. See, the proper term for it was hemp. And hemp at one time in America was not only legal, but they mandated farmers to grow hemp because it produced rope and fiber for the war machine, that they had. But it was only when William Randolph Hearst, wanted to demonize, and we've done studies on this. I've done studies, and what happened is when alcohol became legal, when prohibition was lifted, the law enforcement agencies needed something to replace it, because they had formed the FBI and then the
Untouchables.
Yeah, all those
right,
formed for the booze. But when alcohol became legal, now they didn't have anything, and so then Hearst wanted to get the hemp plant off the market, because hemp plants made the best paper, and Hearst had bought tracts of forest for his newspapers.
Right.
And if he didn't have anybody to compete with, then he would have the market to himself, which he did. And so what they did, they made marijuana illegal, and made it a racist law, because back then racism was legal. It was legal.
And how is it racist? In what regard? Because you have minorities that are using it more?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's why they call it marijuana. Mm-hmm. They didn't say, you couldn't arrest a Mexican for carrying hemp across the border.
Right.
You see.
Yeah.
He got a bag of hemp. Mm-hmm. Well, so what? Hemp's used all through the society. But if he had a bag of marijuana, which is the same plant, exactly the same plant. Only difference is marijuana is a female plant. Mm-hmm. Hemp, the one they use is a male plant. And so it's also a sexist law too, because they only attacked the female plant was made illegal.
Women are always getting a bad deal on this.
Yeah. So anyway, they made it a racist law. And back then they had racist laws against Chinese. Opium was considered, the Chinese scourge, and heroin was Chinese, and but marijuana was definitely Mexicans and blacks, because they did. It's in the Congress
jazz
Book of
musicians in the 30s and 20s and 30s were using marijuana.
Right. And marijuana made. They had a study. Marijuana made black jazz musicians horny for white women.
Well, it certainly made them good musicians. That we can agree on, right?
Yeah, but it's true. Yeah. Marijuana does make you horny for white women. Because I'm a black musician, and it made me. I'm married to a white woman now, so
it worked.
It's definitely true. Yeah.
Talking about comedians, when you think about some of the people you've met that are really Richard Pryor, people that aren't George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, people that aren't really around anymore. Three of them would come back in 2016 and see what is going on in the marijuana world today in the United States. Would they be totally surprised?
Well, Lenny Bruce used to prophesize. He in the 50s. Right. That's when he did his records, and he used to do on his live act. He would say, "Marijuana is going to be legal in the 60s," and people would say, "Why?" He said, "Because so many law students were smoking pot."
Right.
And so he figured that, the lawyers would make it legal, which they did, but it didn't happen in the 60s for sure.
But why do you think there's this dissonance between people who smoke, and a lot of them are politicians, but then they don't vote that way when it comes time to, in the Senate and Congress and presidents? Look, we've had several presidents. I mean, Bush, Clinton, Obama have all admitted smoking.
Yeah. Well, Bush was more of a cokehead. Bill Clinton was more of a sex head, Bill
for white women, right?
No, actually, he was a white woman guy. Yeah, that's probably why he got horny for him. Obama admits that he smokes.
Yes.
Yeah. But yet Obama never rescheduled it. He could have, but he never rescheduled it. It's all a political game. Mm-hmm. Like what's going on today. It's a pure political game, and it's deals with all that we're talking about, racism, sexism, all that stuff. It still exists in America,
Now, we talked about, you mentioned the medicinal value. You have personal experience in that. I have a daughter that also has personal experience in that. You want to describe yours?
Well, with me, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer first. And then I had a specialist look at it and tell me that leave it alone and not do anything, and you'll probably die of something else before
because
it kills
it's
you.
slow growing.
Yeah, slow growing. However, I did a show called Dancing with the Stars, and the stress of that show caused me, I think, caused me to get rectal cancer. It was the same cancer that killed Farrah Fawcett.
Right.
And so I immediately started trying to treat it with marijuana. But I quickly learned from talking to experts that no, there's no studies out of how to properly use it for that particular cancer. So what I did the straight medicine. I did the chemo, and I did the radiation, and then I did the operation. And so they rearranged my plumbing, and now I'm totally cured. However, I did use marijuana to get an appetite for food.
When you are going through chemotherapy, it
kills your appetite.
Kills your appetite. Has a lot of stomach nausea and other stomach issues. Marijuana, I think it's universally accepted, works for that.
It works because marijuana works on the brain. See, that's what the studies they've learned, that we have receptors that connect with the THC and the CBDs in the marijuana plant itself. And so it affects the brain. And I think what it does, it calms the brain down, which we call a high. Really, a high is like taking your glasses off and cleaning them so you can see clearly. Right. And it sharpens all your senses in the body, and it also, this is about in my estimation, it helps promote healing by using the brain to activate your immune system. See, the immune system is what kills the disease in your body. It's not the drugs. It's not the therapy. It's in other words, it's up to God. Right. Well, God really works through your immune system, and marijuana activates the immune system, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, and look, and every one of our pharmaceutical medications derived from plants.
Yes.
Just like marijuana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Discuss with me briefly the difference between marijuana and alcohol, because alcohol is so prevalent everywhere in the world.
Well, I'll tell you. I see, when I was in jail, they made me take a drug education course, and a lot of people don't like doing that, but I loved it, man. I was the first, I was the best in my class.
You got an A in that one, right?
Yeah, I wanted to learn about drugs. Yeah. Well, the most dangerous drug they taught was alcohol.
Why?
Because alcohol works the same way as ether does. Now, when you put someone out with ether, that's just extreme alcohol. Ether is just pure alcohol, basically.
Which is the old way they used to anesthetize patients in surgeries. Yeah.
Knock people out to operate on them.
Yeah.
And so what happens with ether takes you to the point where you're almost dead. It takes away the conscious mind totally. And it takes you, that's why you have an anesthesiologist sitting beside you watching watching the charts, because if they mess up in any way, you're done.
Right.
So what ether does, and that's what alcohol does to you. Alcohol, the more you drink, the closer to death you become, and the closer to the death that people become, they become reckless, because there's no boundaries for you. That's why you get drunk drivers driving into people, or when they shouldn't be on the road. And if they weren't drunk, they wouldn't be driving.
Right.
But alcohol affects the brain in such a way that it takes you out of your. There's no fear factor left in your body to monitor you. Pot, on the other hand, works the other way. Pot will make you sit in a chair for hours.
You won't feel like you won't even want to go out and drive.
You don't want to drive, or you get in the car and you, where am I going?
Where did I put those keys? And of course, alcohol wreaks havoc on your liver and other things.
Because alcohol is a cleaning agent. You use alcohol, you want to clean off something,
exactly.
You put alcohol on it. So you imagine that's going into your kidneys. That's going into your liver. and your liver, and that was in your stomach, you see. And that's what happens. The alcohol eats away at the fabric of your intestinal inside you, because there's no protection, and eventually you die.
So what's the future hold for you? I mean, you've had so many years in this business.
Well,
you're still excited about it?
We talked about running for president and all that stuff, you know, and I thought about it,
Oh, if Trump can do it,
you know what I am? I really am a guru. I've been blessed with the ability to learn learn things. I was always curious. When I was a little kid, I grew up in the country, and the only entertainment we had was church. That was the only entertainment.
Yeah.
There was no movies, no drive-in movies. There was no television. Very little radio. There was, the radio,
Right.
but one station. And so the only entertainment we had was church. And so I would go to Sunday school every chance I got. And then while I'm there, I'd learn. They would teach you all these beautiful Christian stories, or, from the Bible, and a lot of Old Testament stories, which was basically Jewish writings. And I got totally hung up on the stories and searching. And so I went looking for God when I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you have to do. All you have to do is, that's what the scripture says, seek and ye shall find.
Yeah.
And so I started looking. And when you start looking, you start finding. And I started finding at a very early age. And so I learned, first of all, I learned the power of prayer.
Yeah, watch this plant's going to poke your eye out there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I learned the power of prayer. Now, the trick of prayer is ask and ye shall receive, right?
Is it asking, or is it giving just gratitude?
No, but ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so what happens, the trick is, what do you ask for? And so I was really young when I learned the best thing to ask for is wisdom.
Right.
That's all you need.
Right.
And so that's what I would ask for. And that's what I got. Now, with wisdom, books would appear. Someone would turn me on to it. One time I was walking down in New York, I was walking down the street, and all of a sudden I had the urge to turn into this building. And I turned into the building. It was the Harper publishing company. And then I had this urge to walk over to this bookshelf, and then I literally felt something push me down, and I picked up a book, and it was a book by Joel Goldsmith. It's a spiritual book. Joel Goldsmith was a mystic healer that he died in 1960, and he gave lectures and everything else. So his name is Joel S. Goldsmith. And when I read his books, and I've been reading his books ever since. And I've been reading, there's one called The Spiritual Power of Truth. Yeah. And I read that, and when I was sick, I had my daughter read it to me. And what he teaches you in the book, I'm kind of breaking the law now by talking about it. Because the first thing he teaches you is to keep your mouth shut.
Well, why wouldn't it be good to share with other people this wisdom? Yeah.
Because we're on this planet to learn. And you only learn by making your mistakes, your own mistakes. And people don't listen to you. You can tell them till you're blue in the face. Your parents told you that. I'm telling them till you're blue in the face. And you don't listen to them till you experience it, and then you learn, and then you have to try to tell your kids the same thing. And so what Goldsmith taught me is not to preach, not to tell the truths that I know. Let people find those truths out for themselves. But with me, the way I am now, I like to share things with people, and this is, like you asked me, how come I am doing what I'm doing now? I'm almost 80 years old, and I feel like a teenager. Mm-hmm. I literally have the top 20 most beautiful women in the world. They had a contest. More magazine ran a contest. My wife sent her picture in, and she was picked out of all these women in America,
Right.
and she was one of the 20 most beautiful. And she was up against models, and she's short. She's about 5'7", if that. And all the rest of the women were like 6 foot. But she came in, and not only she didn't win, but what she did, she was top 20, and she was the only one picked, or one of the only 3 that were picked to go on the Oprah Winfrey show. And that's my wife. And so you tell me prayer doesn't work?
Yeah.
I am married to she's so gorgeous, and physically, her body and that. And she's the one that got me into dancing, by the way, because she started dancing, and I had to keep up to her, and so I learned how to dance too. And all my kids are talented, beautiful, and all my family, they're happy, talented, well-adjusted, but they're finding their own way.
Yeah. Well, look, every guru should have a very beautiful wife. I agree. Tommy Chong, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm over here at Las Vegas Relief, a licensed dispensary here at Sahara and Paradise, right across the street from the SLS Hotel and behind the McDonald's. Huh? And with me is Jacob Silverstein. And Jacob, now that recreational marijuana has passed, what would be the significant difference of converting from medical only use to general population?
Well, I think the biggest difference that we'll see here in the dispensary is the number of customers that we'll be able to see day in, day out. The state of Nevada has a relatively small medical program, only about 24,000 or so patients. With recreational hitting, we anticipate a tripling or quadrupling of the business.
And the best part about what you're saying is that this applies to the tourism industry in Nevada, right? So we have close to 50 million tourists a year. They'll be able, as long as they're over 21 and purchased recreational marijuana, and all those tax dollars will come filtering into education, I understand.
Exactly right. So the way the law was written is that those dollars are earmarked for education, and we do anticipate the recreational business here in Nevada to really take off significantly.
I just did an interview with Tommy Chong. Now, Tommy has some medical issues and found marijuana to be very useful, but he also used marijuana long before his medical issues. But your typical customer is not somebody similar to Tommy Chong. When I look at the customers here at Las Vegas Relief, I mean, they're veterans, they are elderly people, people with arthritis, people, even younger people with MS, Parkinson's, some horrible illnesses. But you get totally surprised by what the average customer here is going to look like.
We're anticipating a change in the type of customer we see. Our medical patients tend to be a little bit older, right? They tend to be Nevadans who have deep muscle pain. They are veterans, to your point, that suffer from things like PTSD, or maybe they had shrapnel or some type of on the battlefield wound that came back with them. And so when it comes to recreational, we're definitely anticipating a younger demographic, especially folks from California that are going to be coming through to the dispensary, and folks that, again, are just interested in enhancing their time with cannabis. And the law, as written, is going to treat cannabis just like alcohol.
Well, one of the issues that people who voted against this measure had was child safety. Now, I know that you go to just amazing lengths to protect the products.
Absolutely.
And make them child-proof. So maybe I just want to maybe demonstrate what that looks like.
I'd be happy to.
Jacob, I wanted to discuss the child-resistant nature of these edible products. Like these are mints, relaxing mints. They will help. They help people with pain and
anxiety,
and
exactly.
sleeping issues. But how do you get a mint out of there?
Well, so all the packaging here at Las Vegas Relief is child resistant, to your point. So actually, the way you take out these is it's actually blister packaging. So each individual mint needs to be dispensed individually. You have 5 milligrams of THC in every single mint. And really when it comes to edibles, it's all about education, right? We can only do so much in terms of ensuring that those who shouldn't be getting into these packages shouldn't get into them. But really what it comes down to is, do you have proper respect for the product? And are you dosing it properly?
Any medicine.
Any medicine.
It's not an easy thing to open it.
It's not an easy thing, and that's the way it should be. That's the way it needs to be. It really is about ensuring that those who do not need or should not have access to these products don't have access to them.
Okay, and then look, when we talk about something like this chocolate bar, now, there's an amazing invention on how this thing is packaged. Why don't you show us what that is?
So this is actually, this chocolate bar from Dixie Elixirs is packaged in a proprietary European locking mechanism called Locked for Kids. And so what it actually requires is, you'll see that there are plastic tabs on either side that require adult-sized hands in order to actually open the package. So what you do is, you open it, you have to squeeze both the tab at the top and the tab at the bottom.
At the same time?
At the same time, exactly right. And then you have to slide this plastic tray out. And while this doesn't have any chocolate in it right now, the chocolate bar would be right here. And again, this is resealable, so you can put the chocolate back into the bar if you don't want to eat the whole thing. You can or put it back in the box, rather. And then those little tabs, they come back out, and again, the package is resealed and child resistant once again.
I mean, these are all, great precautions. Obviously, safety and wellness is at the forefront of every product here at Las Vegas Relief. And you have these wonderful new Dixie products, which are kind of the Coca-Cola of all edible products.
That's exactly right. We're really proud to carry Dixie products because of the incredible care they put into their packaging and the emphasis they place on child resistance. Everyone that exits our facility leaves with their products in one of these opaque, smell-proof, child-resistant bags. So that ensures that people can't smell it, they can't see it through the bag, and like you're saying, it can be a bit of a pain to open these up. Right. In fact, some of our older patients actually complain that they're not just child-resistant, but they're adult. They're senior resistant too. Yeah. Exactly right.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jacob Silverstein from Las Vegas Relief. His dispensary is located over at the Sahara in Paradise, right across the street from the SLS, and right by the Las Vegas Strip. What a great location.
Thanks so much for having me, Ed.
Okay. See you next week.